Hello, BookTube. Got a little mail for you today on a Tuesday morning. We'll see if there's more mail later in the day, but this will get us started. No boxes, but could still be something of interest. Let's see what we have here. I have a few fairly big things that I'm kind of sort of waiting for. You don't want to jinx things by waiting too explicitly, because then you won't get them and you won't get anything else. The book review section is every bit as prone to a watched pot never boils as anything else is. Okay, great. All right, fantastic. This is another study of Theodore Roosevelt, skewed to be timely. This is from early June. This is by David Gessner, and it's called Leave It As It Is, A Journey Through Theodore Roosevelt's American Wilderness. And there is the man himself. Leave it as it is, Theodore Roosevelt announced while viewing the Grand Canyon for the first time. The ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it. Inspired by Roosevelt's crusading environmental legacy and troubled by the fight that still is waged today over America's public lands, acclaimed nature writer and New York Times bestselling author David Gessner takes to the road in Leave It As It Is. Roosevelt's life guides Gessner along a wilderness road trip through America's national parks and wild places. He travels to the Dakota Badlands, where Roosevelt awakened as a naturalist, to Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon, where Roosevelt escaped during the grind of his re-election tour, and finally to Bears Ears, Utah, a monument proposed by native tribes that is embroiled in a national conservation fight. Along the way, Gessner questions and reimagines Roosevelt's visions for today in a profound meditation on our environmental legacy and future. So the pub sheet here describes this as part travelogue, part environmental clarion call, and part biography of Theodore Roosevelt. Timely and fascinating. Roosevelt always manages to be current. So I don't quite know how he does that, but I'm always up for reading about him, so lucky me. Let's see what this next one is. An advanced copy of something. Oh, okay. I think we saw this already. Okay, let's see. I think we saw this already. This is, I think, another June release? No, early July. Early July from Simon & Schuster. This is David James Poissant, Lake Life. And it has, for those of you trend-spotters out there, I am perforce a trend-spotter because all I see are new books. For you trend-spotters out there, this is a piece of contemporary fiction that has a black and white photo on the cover. And in the last year or two, that has become an ironclad shorthand for a gay subtext. A gay plot, the main plot, or one of the subplots, certainly involving a gay man. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the exception. Let's see. In 2014, David James Croissant, his Poissant, dazzled critics with The Heaven of Animals. It was named one of Amazon's best short story collections of 2014. It was a finalist for the Los Angeles Times Book Prize for First Fiction, and it received rapturous praise from readers and reviewers alike. This July, the author returns with Lake Life, a sweeping debut novel set over an impassioned weekend as the Starling family reunites at their North Carolina lake house for one more vacation before the house is sold. For decades, the Starling family found respite in their summer house on Lake Christopher, the peaceful, quote, cabin in the woods, quote, that helped mend Richard and Lisa's fraught marriage, the hilly landscape where Michael and Thad splashed and sunbathed their youth away. Now, that tradition is coming to an end, as Richard and Lisa have decided to sell their treasured home and retire to Florida. But their heartwarming and celebratory farewell comes to a chilling halt when the family witnesses a tragedy that challenges each member to wrestle with their own issues: alcoholism, infidelity, financial volatility, unplanned pregnancy, and a secret Richard and Lisa have kept from their sons for over 30 years. The truths that unfold will force the Starlings to ask themselves some of life's big questions. Who are we? What is happiness? What do we want from this life? David James Poissant is going for the gold in his debut novel. In twists and turns, both familiar and astonishing, Lake Life is a propulsive read that examines the bonds of love and family in the wake of trauma and deceit. Okay, all right. The author is a recipient of scholarships and fellowships from the Breadloaf, Sewanee, Tin House Writers Conferences. He teaches the MFA program at the University of Central Florida and lives in Orlando with his wife and daughters. And this is his first novel. Okay, great. The cover design leads me to think that I know what one of the family tragedies will be, but I could be wrong. This might be an exception. This doesn't come out for a while. This doesn't come out until early July, so I don't have to deal with it right away. And I'm a little bit dodgy on this. This is starting to become another trend in contemporary fiction, another one that I'm sure you've spotted, which is people getting more than one bite at the debut novel apple. I mean, you wrote a collection of short stories. That was your fiction debut. That was your fiction debut. I'm not sure. I mean, the debut novel, and then you have a debut adult novel, and then you have a debut genre novel. How many debut novels do you get? But it's the full-length thing, and I am 100% sure that the stories probably were not conceived as a full-length thing, so I guess it's not his first fictional foray, but it is his debut novel, and I love debut novels, so we'll see what that's like. Let's see here. What is this next one? Oh, okay, great. This is Little A, the Little A imprint of Amazon. We saw this already. This is Appalachian nonfiction. This is the finished copy of In the Shadow of the Valley, which comes out on May the 1st. When Bobby Cohn thinks back on her childhood in the 1980s Appalachia, she remembers feeling free, running with her younger brother through the remote Kentucky holler where her family lived, wading through creeks, knocking down wasps' nests, climbing to the loft of the barn, and eating sweet blackberries growing along the road to her granny's house. But this freedom was fleeting, for Cohn also remembers the darkness that was always threatening to swallow the vast forest paradise around her. There was the OxyContin, the low-paying jobs, the soda that rotted her teeth, and her abrasive alcoholic father who continually terrorized wife and children with his words and fists. So a two-pronged memoir. On the one hand, she's remembering the freedoms that a lot of people of a certain age remember from their childhood, when you could run around outside, when you could walk around outside as a child without adult supervision, without an adult hovering nearby, when you could climb things or swim in things without an adult hovering nearby. That has all changed. Now, in the 21st century, the world is absolutely teeming with sexual predators who stalk neighborhoods in vans, picking up children like coins off the street. And whether or not that is actually true, that has so far permeated the parenting mind frame now that no parent in the world no parent in America, I should say, would let their child just wander outside and wander around to play all day. No way. No way. And I mean, in their own yard, maybe, but go and play in the neighborhood and come back for supper at 5? No way. No way at all. And that is a different world. That was a freer world. I remember in my own youth, in my own youth, a million years ago, drinking water out of a fountain outside, drinking water out of a garden hose. No child would be allowed to do that now. Anyway, so on one of the prongs of this is those are happy things. Those are happy memories. But remembering those things forces the author to remember all of the stuff that wasn't happy. And that's fruitful grounds for a memoir. I'd be interested in reading it. It's right around the corner, so I can get right to it. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, what is this? No, do I have any kind of... No, I don't. Oh my, what is this? Okay, this comes out in late May. Oh, this looks like a Regency romance. Wow, very pretty thing. This is by Abigail Wilson. It's Masquerade at Middlecrest Abbey. Look at how lovely that is. Let's see what this is. It is a Regency romance. Oh my, it's a trade paperback Regency romance. How wonderful. Okay, in this new Regency romance, Elizabeth knows she must protect her heart from the charm of her new husband, Lord Torrington. She's not, however, prepared to protect her life. When the widowed Lord Torrington agreed to spy for the crown, he never planned to impersonate a highwayman, let alone rob the wrong carriage. Stranded on the road with an unconscious young woman, he is forced to propose marriage to protect his identity and his reputation, as well as his dangerous mission. Trapped not only by her duty to her country, but also by her limited options as an unwed mother, Miss Elizabeth Cantrell and her infant son are whisked away to Middlecrest Abbey by none other than the elder brother of her son's absent father. There she is met by Torrington's beautiful grown daughters, a vicious murderer, and an urgent hunt for the missing intelligence that could turn the war with France. There's a lot going on in this thing. Meanwhile, she must convince everyone that her marriage is a genuine love match if if her new husband has any hope of uncovering the enemy. Determined to keep her son's true identity a secret, Elizabeth will need to remain one step ahead of her fragile heart, her uncertain future, and the relentless fiend bent on her new family's ruin. Good Lord. I didn't know this was coming at all. This is from Thomas Nelson. Abigail Wilson combines her passion for Regency England with intrigue and adventure to pen historical mysteries with a heart. She's a registered nurse, a chai tea addict, and a mother of 2 crazy kids. And she fills her spare time hiking the national parks, attending her daughter's gymnastic meets, and curling up with a good book. She sounds like a booktuber. Sounds like a good booktuber. Okay, great. Well, she's a cum laude graduate of the University of Texas at Austin and lives in Dripping Springs, Texas, with her husband and children. And this is Regency romance. Has she done others? Do we have a list of... In the Shadow of Croft Towers and Midnight on River Gray. Those are 2 others that she's done. I don't think I know those. This is great, though. Can't wait. Okay, so a May Regency romance. How much fun is that? Let's move on here. What is this next one? Okay, we have another memoir. This next one is another memoir. You have lots of paperwork here. I don't want any paperwork. Let's see here. This is a finished copy, so it must be soon. Yeah, early April. This is early April. Another memoir. This is Learning by Heart, An Unconventional Education by Tony Wagner. And look at the cover. He's reading outside. That outline is familiar to all of us. That is our outline. Let's see here. Tony Wagner is an eminent education specialist. He taught at Harvard and MIT. But before he found his success, he was kicked out of middle school, expelled from high school, and dropped out of 2 colleges. After struggling in both roles, student and teacher, he learned a radically different approach to individualized learning, one based on understanding each student's core interests and strengthening his or her intrinsic motivation. From being labeled a failure in high school to experiencing the joy of learning at summer camp, from the years he spent working at odd jobs after dropping out of college to his early formative years as a teacher, Wagner's story is one that sheds light on several critical issues facing today's educators and parents. And in Learning by Heart, he reminds us that the trial and error, resilience, and respect for the individual is at the very heart of all teaching and learning. It doesn't work for what works for one kid, won't work for the kid in the seat right next to him. And if you don't respect that, you're going to lose a large chunk of your room. The problem here is the room. In the American educational system anyway, most classrooms for anything less than extremely expensive private schools are massively overburdened. No teacher could do this. They'd have to devote their entire life to it, not just 8 hours or 9 hours a day, but every bit of their time. The kids would have to be dropping by their houses at all hours. They would have to be dropping by kids' houses at all hours. To tailor this kind of thing individually like that is really tough. But that's what this book is about. This is about an education specialist who's learned a new way of teaching and wants to convey it. Mixed in with memoir, mixed in with generous amounts of his own memoir so that you know that he wasn't some sort of academic paragon before he came upon this. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I know that that is true. Ideally, that's what every teacher wants to do, is to hunker down with the likes and dislikes, with the proclivities of each individual student and find what motivates them individually. I myself, in an academic setting, never did that. I guess on one level I sort of recognize that it's totally impossible to do just logistically. But on another level, I thought, well, if teaching a classroom to be interested in something rather than hunting down the interests of each person in the classroom, if the first version worked for 10,000 years of human history, then it ought to be able to work for this class too. If I can't find a way to interest every single person in this room without hunting out what they like and dislike personally, then I'm not sure what kind of a teacher I am. And I very seldom had trouble doing that. Even the driest dust history is fascinating to everyone in the room when they realize it's real people. That it was them, that it was young people, the world was, no one in history knew that they were in history. All you have to do is make that clear. And you can. It is possible to do. And once you do that, even history is interesting. Math teachers, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. No one's intrinsically interested in math. Anyway, then we have this last one, and then we'll be done. This is a mail for... Oh, okay, great. Great, fantastic. All right, this is right around the corner. And this is the finished copy of Rebecca James's book, The Woman in the Mirror. another gothic thing here that I have not got to. I have this on my March shelf. I haven't got to it yet. So once again, the finished copy will be the kick in the pants I need to go and do this. Let's see. Rebecca James unveils a chilling modern gothic novel of a family consumed by the shadows and secrets of the past. For more than 2 centuries, Winterbourne Hall has stood atop a bluff overseeing the English countryside of Cornwall and the sea beyond. In 1947, Londoner Alice Miller accepts a post as governess at Winterbourne, looking after Captain Jonathan de Grey's twin children. Falling under the de Grey's spell, Alice believes the family will heal her own past sorrows. That never happens in Gothic novels, never even comes close. But then the twins' adoration becomes deceitful and taunting. Their father, ever distant, turns spiteful and cruel. The manor itself seems to lash out. Alice finds her surroundings subtly altered, her air slightly chilled. Something malicious resents her presence, something clouding her sense and threatening her very sanity. Okay, so this comes out in a week, and it is classic Gothic. We'll see how classic it is. It'll probably be several modern twists on the template. In classic Gothic, the thing that is poisoning the atmosphere, the thing that is changing everything, is that there's someone in the house that she doesn't know about. But in this, it could be anything. It could be psychological. And I should have got to this long since, and I haven't done that. So that's bad. It's good to get this, because I will jump right in. So there we go. This is the mail. Quite a mixed batch, as usual. So we have The Woman in the Mirror. We have Learning by Heart, a new way to teach kids based on their own interests. We have In the Shadow of the Valley, another memoir, and this one set in Appalachia. Then The Masquerade at Middlecrest Abbey by Abigail Wilson, a trade paperback Regency romance with lots of espionage and thrills thrown in. Then Lake Life by David James Poisson. This is his debut full-length novel. He's already had a debut collection of short stories. And Leave It As It Is by David Gessner. A kind of walking in Theodore Roosevelt's footsteps to understand the conservation world of his day and our own. Sounds very interesting. They all sound interesting. So there you go. Not a dud in the bunch. So that is your mail for Tuesday. If there's more mail that comes, I will let you know. I will alert you. And otherwise, I will wrap this up. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.